My business literally went to zero in Brazil. Like, I got back to Bali 12 months ago. And this is the first time I've ever shared this story. I literally got back with $10, $10 to my name.
Damn.
I landed, I borrowed some money off a friend. My little brother paid for my ticket out here to Bali. Throughout life, we pick up these attachments along the way, and then it causes suffering when it doesn't go our way.
Yeah.
And a lot of men get stuck going, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what it is. And by doing that, you're just reinstalling that you don't know what it is. And what we say is what we see. And if we're saying that to ourselves that I don't know what it is, then we're not going to see it. There's just a lot of stuff with these seminars and tools. And I think is bringing it all together through someone you resonate with, someone that's done it and has actual experience in doing it, and someone's got some frameworks that work. Everything's going to come to you in life. You got to look after yourself. Like, when you show up for yourself, everyone and everything will show up for you. It starts with us.
What's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Darko Show. Today's guest is Mr. Adrian Nicholls. He's a high performance coach and men's mindset coach, all mixed into one, and sales coach. A lot of things that he does, and we're going to get into it on this podcast and talk about his crazy story in the last year where he was stuck in Brazil and the lessons that he learned and the health issues that he's been going through. Like, a lot of stuff and a lot of wisdom that you're going to learn on this episode to really help you get out of the rut that you're in and really transform your life. So, Adrian, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on. It's good to be here.
Yeah, so we met at our mentor, one of our mentors, right?
Yeah.
Alex Jeffrey's conference in San Diego. That was right.
Sunny San Diego.
Yeah, that was before COVID, 2019, 2018.
2017.
Oh, 2017. Okay, yeah. So that's quite a while ago.
Yeah.
And that shows the power of the mastermind, right? Like, we went to a mastermind halfway across the world, and I meet someone who lives in Bali.
It's like that. You pick up really good people along your journey, don't you? Seminar after seminar. And
right.
Yeah, that's good though.
Yeah. So right now, what are you doing for business? Just so everyone knows.
At the minute, right now, I'm currently doing mindset coaching, so I coach business owners. But my main thing right now is I do high ticket sales negotiations.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll go into it. But the last year has just been more focused on really that is mastering the craft of negotiations, high ticket sales, and also cash flow was an important one, and not having to do fulfillment. Yeah, so just taking a break from the coaching and having to do the fulfillment and having your own operation set up. So right now, just taking a break and focusing on that.
Because what was the issue with fulfillment that you were having in coaching?
So for coaching, and I know there's a lot of coaches that listen to this podcast, I found there's a lot of back end in running a business. Essentially, like when I met you out in San Diego, like they teach you the marketing, they teach you the funnels and these sorts of things, but there's just so much more to it than just getting leads. You do the sales, you've got to run the programs, you've got to keep updating the programs, you've got to coach the clients, you've got to follow up the clients. Like, it's a lot more than, I think everyone wants something, if you look at all the best coaches, they've been around for 10 years. They've been around for a long time. You know, all these guys have been around and I think at the moment, like, so much, everyone wants everything yesterday, and I think it takes a short amount of time to build a business. I think you've got to go through the motions. So, in the coaching space, what was there that was, it was just becoming, when I was stuck out in Brazil, which we'll get into, I think when you're not right, or when things aren't going well in your life, and then you've got to show up to coach, like, I think that's when it starts to get really heavy lifting and you stop enjoying the process.
That happened to me at the end of last year.
Yeah.
So I was coaching a few guys on, like, not even health coaching. It was like we were doing a new program for, like, social life and, just helping them get more confidence in themselves. And at that time, I was experiencing a lot of apathy, and I was just like, I just don't want to do the coaching anymore, And then I was showing up to the calls, and I was just like, oh God, I don't want to do this. Like, this guy's struggling with the same things I'm struggling with right now. I'm like, oh no.
The thing is, your client is always a mirror of you.
Yeah.
And by the time I left Brazil, like, I was just so tired. My business has gone to zero, and I was still having to onboard clients for cash flow. And I was noticing those clients I was onboarding at the very end of my journey over there were an exact mirror of where I was at. So, like, not to where I'm at now. Like, they were challenged by just day-to-day stuff. But that's the client I was willing to take on at the time, because that's where I was. It was just a mirror.
It's crazy how that works, isn't it?
It's so crazy how that works.
It's scary too, because, like, it's just like, fuck, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
If I'm attracting people like me, like, I'm meant to help you.
It's like I've done all this work, but I'm still human. Like, you know what I mean? I still go through these ups and downs, and I really notice that reflection. And it's like, man, my conversations usually go so much deeper than this, but it must be just how I am right now.
Yeah. But the opposite is true, right? So when you like get your self-worth back, your confidence, then you attract different people. Then it's easier to help them because you're already in a good space.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sales calls as well, and then coaching. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you took a step back from coaching and then you went into sales. So talk to us about like why is that so important for you? Like cash flow and all this stuff. Like why is sales so important?
Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, like I had to build myself. I had to build back up my value. Like when I was in Brazil, I got stuck out there during COVID. Obviously, I shared that with you, but for you guys listening, so I was out in Brazil. I was in a Vipassana meditation, and
so Vipassana, what is that for people listening?
So what's Vipassana? So Vipassana and I heard about this at the high performance retreat here in Bali, and I never knew about it either. But a Vipassana it's a 10-day meditation where you sit with yourself for 10 days with just your thoughts. There was like about 50 other people there, or about 100 actually. The one I did was in Argentina. So I remember getting in a taxi 2 hours out of Buenos Aires, and I was driving out and I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm driving out to the middle of nowhere in Spain, in Argentina. I'm going to go sit with people who don't even speak English for 10 days and sit there, and you sit with your thoughts. You wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning, you meditate for like 2 hours, 3 hours, you have breakfast, you meditate for 3 hours, have lunch, and so on. You meditate for about 10 hours a day for 10 days straight. Crazy. Yeah. Crazy. I nearly went insane. I thought day 7. For some reason I thought day 7, okay, 2 days to go, 7, 8, 9, and I was counting wrong. So on day 7 I'm thinking, I've only got 2 days to go, and then I realised I've got 3 full days to go. And then I was battling with myself in those last few days. But 10 days of sitting with myself in Argentina. This was in beginning of 2020. And so I'm here at this retreat. I'd gone there to see a girl in Brazil, gone down to do this retreat. And while I was in the Vipassana, all this COVID stuff hit. So I was in there. This is around March 14, 16, 2020. Yeah. This is when they shut down the borders to Australia. They shut down the borders to Bali, everything. So I've got out of this Vipassana. I'm driving, and we've just turned our phones back on, and at the end of this retreat, and I've got like 100 messages. And I'm like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? Went back into Buenos Aires with some friends that were at the retreat, or some guys that I met. We hadn't talked to each other all week, so we just met like after the 10 days. And and I'm on the phone to my ex-girlfriend, and I'm like, what do we do? And she's like, come to Brazil. So I got on the last flight over the border to Brazil. Then they closed Argentina. This was like within days. Then they closed Argentina, and then I ended up being stuck in Brazil for the 12 months of 2020 to 2021. To answer your question, why did I get into sales? While I was there, my business went to like pretty much zero. And we'll go into it a little bit deeper, but while I was there, I had relied so much on leads coming in and funnels working, and I relied on a lot of things outside of myself. Where, to answer your question, why sales is because it's just up to you. You just got to show up and get the job done. Like, help that person. Sales is service. Help that person if you can help them get what they need, and if you can help them get what they need, then you're able to create cash flow, create commissions. So why sales is because I could just cut back everything else and just focus solely on that, and just cut back everything else until I was good, mentally, physically, emotionally, and also out of integrity, authentically. Because at the end of the day, if you're trying to coach people and your business isn't where you want it to be, your life's not where you want it to be, it's a little bit, so incongruent. I see that all the time. I see a lot of coaches struggling with that. Yep. They're trying to keep it together. I was in network marketing for 6 years, and I always saw it that the network marketers, they're put on a big facade on social media like everything's good, but they're not being human, and it's so incongruent that it'll end up stalling you. It'll end up stalling your growth in your business.
Yeah, so that's a lot. You see that a lot, right? Especially like people that are coaching business, and that's their first business. Massively.
And then you see these people on social, you see, and everyone's doing their best, with what they have, with their awareness. But sometimes you see it, and then you meet the person, and you meet them in person. You're like, I thought you were a lot different to this kind of. Yeah. It's that whole perception.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a really big thing that I'm like big on, is like they call it embodying your message and all that stuff, you know, like being integrity with like what you're selling. So like if I was fat, I wouldn't be selling health coaching.
Exactly. And then I think for me, I really struggled with the coaching we were talking about before, like finding your message. Like our friend Dale's just found a really good niche. He's helping teachers, and now he's just like in flow. You can just see the way he works. He's passionate, he's in flow. And I didn't really have a good message. I've always had a thing to help men with men's coaching and transformational work through men, high performance coaching, and also get out of the 9 to 5 and into entrepreneurship, because I never really had a mentor growing up. And to go on that, where was I going with that?
Niches.
Message. Yeah, around the niches. So this was interesting. I did some plant medicine, and I got an epiphany through it. Is like, you want to be the best coach you can possibly be, but you don't want the challenges. Like where the coaches become the best in this niche that we're talking. I mean, how coaches become so good is through experience, through their own experiences. Right. And I'm like, I did some mushrooms and went on a plant medicine retreat and did some mushrooms, and it come to me as like, literally had a voice come through and say, you want to be the best at what you do, but you don't want the challenges along the way. Like, I've given you exactly what you asked for, which is interesting. I think I've given you all the experience. Like now I look at Brazil and everything that's led up to now, all the losses. I've lost a lot of money in different businesses, and you know, some things have gone wrong. But then you look back and it's like, I couldn't coach to the level that I'm coaching at, because if I hadn't gone through all those things.
It's like your mess becomes your message.
Your message becomes your message.
Right.
But you embody what you were saying. You actually have embodied it. So what you teach, you're not just teaching some Tony Robbins stuff. You're not just teaching some DeMartini stuff, this and that. You're teaching the things you've learned, but you're putting it into your own message and your own frameworks.
And because it's based on your own experience, you're just that more credible.
Because it's based on your experience, so you can deliver it through the lens of your own experience. So it's just frameworks delivered through your story.
That's a very simplified way of looking at coaching. And I didn't get that epiphany till recently also.
Yeah.
Like, it's just what you said, like your frameworks, and put it through your experiences. Yeah.
And it came to me just recently too. My mentor was like, because I'm about to launch a new program about this whole experience and how I've kind of come back and got back on top. And he's like, you are the program. You are like, what you've done up until now, you're just teaching it through your lens. And there's some frameworks and all, that's where the magic happens. But the guys are learning from your experience. You've walked it first.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're the product, right?
Yeah, you're the product.
Yeah.
And then I think when you're teaching and coaching and posting content and sharing, it's all authentic. You can't there's no other brands like it, because it's just only one.
Yeah. And that's powerful when you dive into that and you're like, oh, this is actually what differentiates me from everyone else.
Yeah.
Because there's so many fucking coaches these days.
Yeah, and a lot of people have a lot of imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Because they're comparing themselves to everybody. And to be honest, like what I've accomplished in the last year, I don't feel I'm competing against anyone anymore, because it's my own. There's no one to compete against. But I think, you can get caught up in doing program after program and trying to be fit in the box. And then when you try and fit in the box and you look left and look right, you're just comparing.
Yeah. And that's like have you done sport before? Like running athletics or track? Like, when you're running and if you look left or right when you're running, you're going to lose.
You lost it.
You lost it already.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to keep straight, tunnel vision, otherwise you're going to lose, because you'll lose your stride and stuff like that. Yeah. It's the same thing in life, right? Like,
I think there's a meme with Michael Phelps and he's swimming and he's like, one guy's looking at him and then he's not even looking, he's just done a win.
Yes, yeah. It's hard to do that though. Like, how do you stay focused on your lane and not look to the left or right? Yeah,
that's a good question. To me, and I'll share some things with your listeners. I've implemented so many strategies the last year, from my business literally went to zero in Brazil. Like, I got back to Bali 12 months ago. This is the first time I've ever shared this story. I literally got back with $10 to my name.
Damn.
I landed, I borrowed some money off a friend. My little brother paid for my ticket out here to Bali.
Wow.
Yeah. I flew in, and when people say, my coaches at the time, my mentors, were working pro bono. They were just helping me out, because I think they could obviously see potential. But I had a mentor that worked with me from getting me from Brazil back to Bali, because I had to pretty much rebuild everything. And I built back from $10. Like, I had nowhere to go. And how do you do that? Not look left, not look right. I created a framework. It's like just basically you black out. You gotta black out everything. You black out all your notifications. Black out your going to this event, that event, socializing. Like you got to really get sometimes, and it comes with this men's work. I think a lot of men have a time in their life where they need to just step away and rebuild, or step away and focus solely on themselves, their core values, their routines, their structures. Like if you're going to build, you can't build from sand. So the blackout is all about is this serving me to where I want to go? I've been in monk mode this last 12 months. That's when I just bumped into a meal, like literal monk mode. I have just sleeping, training, working, getting better at my craft, instilling it so it'll never happen again. Because once you lose it once, you're never going to lose it again.
That's powerful, man. So take us back. So $10, you just arrived in Bali. What's going through your mind?
$10. If I rewind back a few months before the $10,
how did you get there?
So I was out in Brazil. I went out there to meet a girl, my ex-girlfriend. So I met Maria out there, and in Brazil, had an amazing year in Brazil. Businesses, the challenge was being in a country where you don't speak the language. Over a year, it was amazing. Everyone was COVID. There was lockdowns in all the different countries, and I was there. I'm in Brazil. This is amazing. But I'm working, and the time zone's a complete opposite to Australia. And over time, as much fun as I was having in the relationship, I become complacent with my business and my routines. And then being in a country where you don't speak the language, and I'm someone that loves communication, like it's my thing. Go to seminars, like I love being around people. That's where we met you in San Diego. I love people, love energy. Being in Brazil for 12 months, it's because I couldn't speak the language. I just, as a man, not having resources to get things done, it just slowly chipped away at my confidence, like my self-worth. I wasn't able to be resourceful. My ex-girlfriend ran a business, 7 petrol stations. She had 100 employees, so she had resources. And here I am working. I'm an online entrepreneur, but I couldn't even go out and communicate and get a reflection back at me in that scene of who I was and what value I had to bring. Like it was just basic language, man, like getting a taxi, a little bit of Portuguese, get to where you're going, training with my trainer, go home. I wouldn't talk to people for weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was living 3 hours south of my girlfriend because she lived in a Latin city and I didn't want to live in this city. So I lived on this beach and all this COVID stuff, the lockdowns, and it was pretty isolating. I was probably the only gringo in the city. Was the only gringo in this city of, a couple of 10,000, 20, 30,000, maybe 100,000. And so just over time, not speaking a language, my value depreciated. And I think for your listeners, like, it doesn't have to be Brazil. Brazil was just that environment for me at the time. We've got social environments where people feel isolated. We've got friend circles where people feel isolated.
Yeah.
Men in marriages, they might be in a marriage, they still feel isolated. So it's not just Brazil, but that was an extreme case. But over time, not being in an environment where you're adding value and feel you're getting a reflection back at you, it chips away at your character. Like by the end, before I left Brazil, like before I flew out, like I've just created a presentation, a webinar, and I posted we got a good friend, Rory Callahan, and he texted me on like March 16th, and I remember texting him, and the text said like, man, I'm not doing too well. Have you got time for a chat? And then a week later, the ex-girlfriend broke up with, like, she called it. She couldn't do it anymore. And we never had a fight, never had an argument. Like, we had the best relationship ever. But obviously, as we said back to the mirror before, if I was texting Rory the week before saying, mate, I'm not doing too well, and then she's called the relationship, she can't do it anymore, it was obviously a reflection of how I was doing in Brazil.
Yeah.
So over time, slowly, I deteriorated. And, the next few weeks after we broke up, I was literally on my own now in a country. I was walking the streets, dude, at like 3 a.m. to try and find someone to speak English. Wow. Like I had anxiety running through my body. I couldn't sleep. I was trying to get home. I missed 3 flights, went to the airport, couldn't get on a flight back to Australia. They cancelled it. A week later, I'd say goodbye to all my friends in Brazil. Like I'd been there for a year, so I'd met a lot of people. Say goodbye to them all at a big barbecue, never see them, not going to see them again. Go to the airport. Sorry, you can't get on the flight today. So emotionally and mentally, I was just like, my business had gone to zero. The relationship had finished, and then I hadn't spoken my language for a year, fluidly, like we can converse. It wasn't like that. It was like you'd find someone that could speak a bit English, and you're like, oh my God, like this is a good day.
Wow.
Crazy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
You went through so much.
It was, it was definitely character building.
Yeah.
Character building.
So you basically lost a sense of self when you were there. Like you lost.
Yeah, I lost my identity.
Yeah.
I lost my sense of self, and it was just a very, very challenging time. Like, I could throw the lockdowns in there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and being a man, like, it's being a man not being able to be resourceful. It's like that's all we have. We are. That's what we do. That's how we provide.
Yeah.
That's how I should have been providing for the girlfriend, but I couldn't because I didn't have the resources, man. Like I got locked out of my apartment one day, and I had to I'm texting it like, can you talk to this guy and get him to open the door? Like I don't know what to say, and it was that every single day. So zeros bank account, zero emotional bank account, zero physically, and I had Maria's family and stuff like that. I'd had a second family now. I had all these friends in Brazil, and then I had to leave. I had to get out of there, and I finally made the decision to leave. And I took my friend to the airport this time so he could speak to the guy. And luckily, like my friend, he conversed with them, and they gave me a business class ticket out of there, all the way back to Australia.
Wow.
Yeah, they said, we can't help you today, but yeah, come back in 3 days and we'll fly you back to Oz.
Why do you think they did that for you?
Man, I think it's like, call it universal principles, universal laws. I think when it was time, like I think things just started to open up for me. Why do I think they did it for me? To be honest, they probably just saw how burnt out and run down I was. Like going to the airport 3 times over 3 weeks after a breakup, you just want to move on. Like you just want to get your shit together, and just I think they just probably just really felt for me. So.
Wow. So you left Brazil to go to Australia, and
then I had 2 weeks quarantine. Okay. So talk about isolation for a 1 year and a half.
Right.
Okay. It was phenomenal. Like Brazil was phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. Like landscape, people, culture, amazing. That's what goes back to this men's world. Like you got to have your shit together, finances, like routine, everything. You've got to have your shit together. And Brazil, as extreme as it was, it shone the lights. It shone the light, the torch from another angle. As my mentor says, it showed me the dints in my own armor. It showed me the kinks in my armor. I was in a battle, and that were the dints in my armor. It wasn't in check.
What were the kinks in your armor? Just for people listening, if they're not.
So the kinks in my armor were my business wasn't sustainable.
Right.
I had all my eggs in the one basket. I had Facebook ads running. I was doing really well. Pretty consistent, high figure months. It was really good. But I had all my eggs in the one basket within that business model. And then once again, I was marketing, selling, and coaching. And then being in Brazil, I had to get up at 4 a.m. to do the coaching. I had to get up at 6 a.m. to do the sales calls, because it had flipped. I didn't have a global community at that time. So, I was just a bit naive in business, where I didn't risk mitigate my business. I didn't have organic traffic. I didn't have a list. You know what I mean? So when Facebook wiped me, it took out my accounts because I got barred, because for some reason they don't like you posting positive stuff and helping people. I had all my eggs in one basket, so my business got taken out overnight when I was in Brazil. All of a sudden, no income.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you're stuck there in Brazil, where you're still learning Portuguese at this time.
Yeah, I'm learning, man. Portuguese is a very, very challenging language, and so I was doing my best to learn, but the kinks in the armor was, I was doing my best to learn Portuguese for Maria's family, for her, and for my friends, so I could communicate, but I'm putting out these other spot fires in the background.
Yeah.
There's a time and a place when you can go and learn a language, or you can do this, you can do that, but if you haven't got your other stuff together, then you're not taking it all in, because the lens you're learning through is this stuff's going on in the background.
Yeah, and I can imagine that must have felt overwhelming as well, because I've got to learn Portuguese, and then my business is fucking not working. Yeah. And then my girlfriend wanted my time, or needed my time of an evening, because she'd been work all day, and then I'm having to be on the Australian time zone to build my business. So I was just I was seriously burning the candle at all ends. Yeah. And then she's complaining because she's not getting attention.
She's very good, actually. She never complained.
Really? Nice.
She was really good, and she was understanding. It was just the extremities of an environment.
Yeah, stretch you too much.
A lot of stretching, yeah. So much time by myself, like in my own thoughts. And then the limited English, like not being able to speak rapidly, fast, having to slow your language down to just communicate. As you said before, loss of identity.
That's like, was that the lowest point in your life?
The lowest point in my life was when I landed in Sydney and I got locked I went into the hotel quarantine and they put me into the room and they shut the door for 2 weeks. Insane. Like I was broken mentally, physically, emotionally. And yeah, they locked the door and man, I just had anxiety running through my body, locked in a room by myself for 2 more weeks.
How did you get through that?
All I wanted to do was see my family.
Yeah.
Man, it was after day 3. I'm just like, get me out of here. This is full on, and it was really testing. And I ended up saying, you've got to. I was speaking to a friend on Facebook, and she's like, just tell them you're going to hurt yourself, and they'll put you into a health hotel, they call it. So I'm like, yeah, okay, you got to get me out of this room. I'm going to hurt myself, and not that I would have.
Yeah.
And they moved me. They moved me to a 2-bedroom place with a courtyard and windows, man.
Wow.
So
Nice.
the lowest point was being in a room after all of that happening and then not even able to open the window to get some fresh air. Like, dude, like that's like I can understand why people go crazy in isolation and in jail.
Yeah.
Like having everything taken away and even
I was listening to a book actually today by Marissa Peer called I'm Enough, and she says solitary confinement is like the number one punishment for a human. Like that's the worst thing you could do for a human being is put them in solitary confinement. Yeah. Which is basically what you were in.
Pretty much what I've kind of experienced. But getting into that hotel, that was the lowest of the low. And then that's where it started to turn. That's where it really started to turn. I just did this presentation around this. That's when I had to focus on, once I got in this health hotel, it's just so annoying because I had a psychologist calling me now every day, annoying me. And once I got into the hotel, I'm like, mate, stop calling me. Like, bro, you don't need to call me. Like, stop calling me. He's like, I have to. It's like policy. If we don't call you and you do something to yourself, I'm like, dude, I'm not. I got what I wanted. Leave me alone. Like, go. There's someone screaming down the hallway. Go sort that out. And being at the lowest of the low, what do I have then? And probably for you, fitness is something where it's up to you. Like, I get up in the morning, and this is where I started meditating. I'd never really been able to meditate, but I sat with myself. Like 20, 30 hours some days, sitting in this room for two weeks, hours just meditating and sitting there and training in the room. I bought some stretch bands because I knew I was going to be in this hotel quarantine, so I bought some bands, I bought some push-up things, and I just meditated and I just trained every day. That's all I had, literally all I had. Progression is happiness, and that's all I had to progress forward, because if I thought about the past, I just didn't want to be, I just wanted to focus on myself.
How did that change your mindset after you did those two things during that time?
Yeah, so how did it change my mindset is it's really around, this is what I teach in my new program, this core 4 that I've built out is, it's 4 core things that you need to do daily. And part of those core 4 is 1, sitting with yourself. Because as a man, we should all sit with ourselves. Like, if you can't do nothing well, then you can't do something well.
That's a good point. That's very good. Very true.
Yeah, if you can't sit with yourself away from the distractions and just let go of everything and can be unattached to everything, completely unattached, because as we learned in the Vipassana, when we go back to that Vipassana that I did get some learnings from, but because I'll come out and it was like the apocalypse, I didn't really take much in because I went straight into the thick of it. But in the Vipassana, it's all, attachment is suffering. Attachment is suffering. So in the meditations now, it's just letting go. I'm not attached to a business. I'm not attached to my ex-girlfriend. I'm not attached to things not going the way I want them to go. And so sitting with myself for 20 minutes now, like that's a given. Like I think I'm up to day 21 in a row at the minute, but I probably meditated 330 days out of the last 350. Yeah.
That's impressive.
Even to the point I moved to Sambakima Hill in the north of Bali for 6 weeks
by
myself.
Nice.
It's like I hadn't had enough.
6 weeks?
6 weeks by myself. It was COVID prices.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but like I hadn't had enough time by myself already.
Yeah.
But it's interesting the reframe on that. Like, it was for another meaning. I've just spent so much time, you'd think I want to be around people. And then I wanted to get away to be around nobody.
Why do you think that is?
I really needed to settle my nervous system down. I had to let my nervous system settle down after, Brazil and, always having to be on edge and, not understanding things. I mean, it's like, as my mentor said, I was running on cortisol for a year and a half. I was literally running on cortisol. My hormones were so out of balance because when your basic needs aren't met, you're constantly fight or flight mode. You're constantly in high levels of cortisol, and it's not good for your health. I think that's why my immune system then suffered, and then I got some mold poisoning from here in Bali. But yeah, I think sitting with yourself as a man and women as well, for sure. High performance coaching, I definitely recommend meditating. But I think as men, that's where the true power lies, is sitting with yourself and being okay.
Yeah, because someone listening who doesn't meditate, or they need guided meditation.
Yeah.
Like, what is the difference, first of all, between guided meditation and just sitting in silence? Like, what?
So I think the guided meditation is still like a distraction. At the end of the day, like, why do you need to be guided? Like, the whole thing is like, it's around. I read a book called The Hypothesis of Happiness. Have you read that one?
I haven't heard of that one, actually.
Yeah. So in that book, he talks about like the rider and the elephant. The metaphor is the rider and the elephant, and the unconscious mind is the elephant, and you're the rider. And it's not about steering the elephant to where you want it to go. It's working with it.
Yep.
And when you work with it, you build a relationship with it. And that's what I didn't have, and I haven't had it up until I'm 37 years old. I haven't had it up until now. I haven't had a relationship with myself. And that's just sitting there being okay, or just sitting there with yourself, starting to know yourself. Because when you know yourself, then you can know others, and like, not getting all philosophical or whatever you call it. At the end of the day, you come here alone, you go alone. And when do we ever get time just to sit there with ourselves and build a relationship with ourselves?
Yeah, you said that to me the other day at breathwork.
What was that one?
We come alone and we go alone.
And
that's something I believe. I'm like, I literally believe that. I mean, it's the facts, right? That's true.
Yeah.
But again, we get attached during our journey.
Throughout life, we pick up these attachments along the way, and then it causes suffering when it doesn't go our way.
Yeah.
The relationship, like when that got taken away, I had already had everything else taken away, and then that went. Like at the time, Maria was like all I had at that time, because I didn't have the purpose, I didn't have the business. So the more that you're attached to something and it's taken away, the more you suffer.
Yeah. And then as a man, like, the purpose is
your purpose isn't women. Your purpose is your mission.
Yes. Yeah. Every man needs that.
Every man needs that. Yeah. Your purpose is your mission. It's what you want to create. And it become unbalanced because I wasn't moving in a direction.
So you felt like in that moment, did you put your purpose, like, for the short term in her? Like,
for that time, out of survival, because I'm never one to have an attached. I'm never one to have that attachment style.
Yeah.
I'm complete opposite. Like, I've been an avoider up until this relationship, and rather than avoiding the relationship, this one I was going to Maria for that's all I had. She's the only person that could speak English to me. So it was like, it was more of a survival thing. So not that I was needy or anything like that. I was doing my own thing. I was hustling with my business, but it was kind of my own anchor. It was my only anchor I really had in that environment. And then when that got taken away, man, there's some growth in that. That's when I was walking the streets looking for someone just to speak a little bit of English to.
And did you find that person?
I didn't find. I started meeting some people. Yeah. And but like, it was like that. I'd wake up in the middle of the night. And I'm like, I need to like just talk to somebody. Yeah.
But speak to that feeling of like, maybe my guess is that you felt really alone after that.
Yeah. Really, really alone. Yeah.
Because that's something that we're so afraid of, right? Like feeling alone, being by ourselves. Yeah. And you were in that in Brazil. So like, what was that like, being in that? Like, that's like one of the biggest fears that people have, right?
Yeah. And the thing I've traveled, lucky, very, very grateful to travel like 49 countries. Yeah. Still yet to hit 50. Yeah. And all these different places you go, I've been alone to many places, and I happily have a good 3 months. It's just so different when you're in a different mindset. Like, it's all about the mindset at the moment when you're there, because many times I've been traveling by myself and my confidence is there, my certainty's there, I know who I am, I know what my identity. But then, when I was in that environment and then the relationship stopped, I didn't have any connection, and I'm in a place that I didn't want to be anymore. What was that like to be alone? It was character building. That's all I can say. It was really, really tough. It was like the bottom of the bottom.
Yeah.
Like of self-discovery.
Yeah. Do you feel like you found out who you are in that moment? Like the resilience you have?
I found out how resilient I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I found out how much the human spirit can be pushed until how much more we have than we think we have. Yeah.
So when did you decide that you're going to just black out, like you said earlier, and just go for it?
I decided I was going to black out was when I landed back in Melbourne. I landed back in Australia. I did the 2 weeks quarantine. I saw my family, and then I was in the environment in Australia. I'm like, I cannot build a business here. Like, this environment's not going to support me. And I borrowed $700 off my little brother, and I flew into Bali. And man, the story gets. When I landed into Jakarta, they closed the borders to Bali. They locked down Bali, and I couldn't fly in unless I took the vaccine. And for me, I wasn't going to take it. So I'm in a new hotel quarantine, and I'm sitting in this hotel quarantine in Jakarta. And on that, like, I did 3 more days of more quarantine, more isolation. And for me here, like, I had the meditation and I had the fitness. That's all I was doing all day. And I was building myself up, and I just had an interview for the sales role, and I was just trying to keep it together to get this job. And when I got out of that quarantine, I went to Jakarta, went to the airport, and on that day, this is how much the human spirit's got. On that day, I didn't know if I couldn't get into Bali, then I was going to Portugal. So I didn't even know where I was going to land in the next 24 hours.
Wow.
From getting in that taxi to landing at the airport. Like, on that day, I had my backpack, and I was either going to be that night, I was going to be sleeping in Portugal, or I was going to be sleeping in Bali, because they closed the borders again. And luckily, I had a medical exemption, and they let me in. Like, they had full military at the airport, and had to go to a specific guy, and he was lucky enough to go, oh, yeah, cool. The Balinese and the Indonesians, they're very friendly and welcoming. And he's like, yeah, no worries. And I got in.
Wow. And then after that, you're like, all right, I got $10.
And then I got in, and my driver, like, I've known him for years, he gave me a free ride to a house, and some friends set me up with a room, some of our friends here in Bali, and I got this sales job, and I'd never done high ticket sales before, and I just started working, just started taking calls and learning the ropes and learning the skills of how to. After a year of not speaking to anyone, and now I'm speaking to people 8 hours a day.
Damn.
Like, complete opposite.
That's like 3 or 4 calls a day?
8 calls a day.
Whoa.
Doing 8 back-to-back strategy sessions a day.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Just straight into it.
Straight into the deep end.
Meditating, training, and making cash again. And within a matter of months, I was back on top. I paid my debts off. It's 12 months now, been back in Bali, and I've closed over $2 million on the phone. Wow,
that's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Pretty solid.
That's amazing, yeah. What
turnaround. The numbers is just a reflection of, like, who I become, like, who I am now. It's not about the numbers. Like, it's not, I've closed 300 deals in 12 months over the phone. High ticket deals, like $7,000 offerings, 8,000s. It's nothing to do with, like, the numbers or anything. It's about who I had to become to do that, to close the deals.
Yeah, so who did you have to become? Like, talk to us about the growth, because there's a lot of people in the world, like, especially now, that are, like, not doing too well.
Yeah,
they're not on, like, if their chart of their life was like a crypto chart or stock chart, like, they had the high, and now they're on the low,
Yeah.
So how
crypto is a big one.
How do you rebuild it?
I put a little bit in crypto. I didn't. It's down.
Yeah,
it's definitely down at the moment. Yeah. So who do I have to become? It's interesting. When I landed, following another young guy on Instagram, and he's very successful, and I did his program, and I looked at some stuff that he implements for his students, and it was getting very clear on what are the traits of the person I need to become. Like, it was like, basically, you've got a piece of paper, you've got your picture in the middle of it, and you've got these boxes around it. Like, what do I say to myself? How do I show up? What time do I wake up? It's like, and then you've got 2 bits of the paper, and one's how you are now, and one's how you want to be. And to be honest, I did this over 90 days, and the numbers, the amount of sales, the person, it was exactly identical. Being very specific on, okay, I'm getting up at 7 now. Okay, I'm going to get up at this ideal me is getting up at 5. Yeah, and like this person doesn't meditate, and this person does meditate. And so you really got to paint a picture of who this person is. People say, I want to get better. I just want to be better. Well, what does that mean? Like, you got to be so specific, because your mind is just going to go. It needs something to model off. If you want to go to Sydney from Melbourne, drive there. Well, you need to put in the map Sydney, and then you'll get there. However you get there, but it will take the fastest route. But the mind needs to see Sydney as a location. True, yeah. So how did I for the sales, like how did I become that person is knowing who I wanted to become, and then just being relentless, like just having an open mind and being coachable and putting my ego to the side. My business was doing really well when I got to Brazil, and I've had properties, I've done really, really well. And then with everything, we go down, and then you learn the things that you didn't learn. Like you see it through a lens. Like I'd rather what happened happen than that happening when you've got 3 kids and a property portfolio and losing all that. I'd rather learn the lessons now while I'm at 37, like pretty much in my peak. Yeah, I'd rather learn them now than later on when other people have to suffer.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the fortunate side of it, right? Like you don't have kids and a wife and houses and all this stuff.
And that's where you got to flip it. Like you got to look. The things that help me with everything is like, what's the benefit in this? What's the benefit of the relationship not working out? And then I just have to list the benefits and rebalance and calibrate the mind. Like, what is the benefit? Because we're always looking at why is this happening to me? Yeah. The money, why did I lose it all? The relationship, why is it all going? Why me? Right. When it's like a good one, a note that I have in my iPhone in my notes is, why is this the best thing that's happening to me now?
That's a great question. Yeah.
And if you read that, so like say you don't close a deal that day, or someone steals your camera, or I don't know, like something. Why is this the best thing that's happening to me right now?
And that forces you to look for an answer.
Automatically, you have to go find why is this the best thing happening to me right now?
Yeah.
And you got to find the answer.
Yeah.
And everything's balanced.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's nothing's good or bad. It's like how we perceive it.
So it's a constant reframing of negative events. What could be, you could easily have believed like the story of, why is this happening to me? Oh, because of this and this and this. And then you just go in the downward spiral because you like, oh, fuck, yeah, because of that. Yeah, and it confirms like negative stories about yourself. And then you can it's so easy to go down that path.
Yeah.
If not controlling our mind.
Oh, man, it's so important. Especially like there's the isolation I had in Brazil. It was like, that's what I really worked on with a mentor is what's the benefit in this? And then what's the drawback if this didn't happen? So what's the benefit in this happening? And it's like, well, I could get back to Bali and I can build my business again. That's a benefit. What's the drawback if this didn't happen? So what's the drawback if this didn't happen? Makes you then go look for, well, what would be a drawback if this didn't happen? Or if it didn't happen, what would be a negative in that? So it makes you really look at all sides of it to rebalance.
I think this is really good content for people. Like you're sharing like real stuff, like people, this is what I think people need, like there's so many people struggling, but we don't know it because everyone's hiding shit.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm glad you came on here and, sharing your story because it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm hoping it will. I'm hoping it will, because I think at the end of the day, we're in the modern world is at war with men. Like the modern world is more at war with men, and it's through distractions. It's through, the social norms. It's like men are getting so redirected from their purpose and their mission. Like 90% of men, you go to the bar, or not hanging out at bars, but anywhere, and you don't meet many men where they're like, this is what I'm up to, this is what I'm doing, this is my mission, this is my vision, this is my purpose.
That's so true.
You meet these guys, and everyone's on the best their journey, doing the best they can. But not a people are they're not aware of a vision even. Like, what's your vision for life? What's your mission? What are you working on? What inspires you?
Yeah.
And then they wind up at 30, 40, 50, and they're going through a midlife crisis, and they're so unfulfilled because they've followed the social norms, buy the house, get the kids, have the wife, and then they've forgotten about themselves.
Yeah.
And that creative energy that's inside men. Like, we need to be working on something.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And one of our mutual friends, Ross, he loves the book, The Way of the Superior Man.
Yeah. I'm talking to Ross at the moment.
Yeah, that book is... that book, he talks about that, right? Living on the edge, like having a vision, having a purpose. Well, that's so integral to a man. Like, before I came to Bali, I never understood that to that level. I just knew that, do you know what? There's something in me that doesn't want to just settle for average and like doesn't want to just settle for this. Like, I want to do more.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that, my purpose is calling me. That was my purpose, drawing me to something. Like, I got to do something every day. I can't just sit around wasting time talking about the weather, stuff like that, you know?
And a lot of men get stuck going, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what it is. And by doing that, you're just reinstalling that you don't know what it is. And what we say is what we see. And if we're saying that to ourselves that I don't know what it is, then we're not going to see it. But if we change the language and design our language to work for us, it's like, I'm moving towards my purpose every day.
Yeah.
It's not clear, but it's becoming clearer.
Yeah.
As like our language is like, and then you look at your life and you look at where are things lining up? It's like, well, okay, I've done this, I've done that. And you look for a pattern, look for a trend. Look for what energizes you. What do you spend your money on? What are you naturally drawn towards? What do you talk about? And then when you talk about and when you look at it, you're going to see a pattern. Like for you, it's obviously your passion's fitness, man. You're training every day. You're ripped. You're at Soma. You do this stuff even if you didn't want to do it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No one's paying. I'm paying to do that shit.
Yeah. You're paying to do it, man. You're paying to do it.
Soma ain't paying me.
Soma ain't paying you.
But yeah, like that's the thing, right? Like even this podcast, I'm paying to do this. Like I pay the editor to do this. You know.
Yeah.
Like it makes money like of some people that come on, they can promote their programs and stuff. But like, yeah, I wasn't doing it for like, oh yeah, the podcast is gonna make me so much money. Like it was just I wanted to do it. I wanted to get to know people that I like in Bali. You know, go deeper and stuff, and then have it be recorded so other people can get value from it. You know.
And then it's taking you somewhere, like Steve Jobs said, like you can't see it till when you look back, that's when all the dots line up.
Right.
And for you, it will line up to why you built this and built that and built that. And it's for the same for me in sales. It's like I've been traveling for 7 years and all this communication and talking, like that's why I'm good at sales. Like, that's why that and that's why that. And now I've just been working with this company. We've done so well. And now I've seen how to run a company. When before I had my coaching business, but now I'm seeing and I'm in it, working with a team and we're very top performing team in sales. And now I'm seeing it all and I'm looking at it going, this is getting me ready for my own empire, my own launch, my own company. But I didn't know all this stuff. So like it's incremental. You don't see it until you look back.
How do you sell something
well, sell me this pen.
No, like
Wall Street.
Right. Because how do you sell something that someone else has if you don't believe in it, or do you have to believe in it?
No, you can't. You can't sell it. That's what Wolf of Wall Street did, and that's why he went to jail.
Yeah.
But now he's got a really good program. But his sales training, he's like, don't use this unless you believe in what you're doing, and you can genuinely help this person. So to answer your question, like you can't really sell something you don't believe in. Like it's out of integrity. It's bad karma, man.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people. The reason I ask that question is there's a lot of people that try and do that.
Yeah. And
before I had ideas that I was going to sell this guy's thing. I was like, actually, I don't even believe in that guy's thing. So why would I want to do that? You know?
Yeah. And I think that's where in high ticket sales, you've got to believe in the product. Like I got pitched, like now that I've done so well in this last 12 months, I got people like trying to headhunt me because they know what I've done. Yeah. But I'm not into selling e-commerce stuff. I'm not into selling, the guy I work for, like it's genuine, the guy's getting results. It's changing their life. It's a great vehicle. But yeah, I couldn't sell like another e-commerce, digital marketing Shopify store. And yes, it could work, but it's just not for me.
Yeah.
I don't see the value in it.
Just an aside, like this is a personal curious question. How do you deal with objections on the phone? Like specifically the money objection.
The money objection. This is a good one. We actually did some role plays on this morning. So the money objection, just role play it now.
It's gonna be good for people. Yeah. So because I'm also in sales, right? So okay, so it's $10,000.
Yeah.
Wait, so am
I role playing to you? Okay, I'll role play to you. So.
Oh no, I'll role play. I'll do the prospect.
Yeah, you be the prospect. So before we get to, okay, so coming up to the money, I'm not going to say the money yet. So, okay, so investment aside, is there anything else stopping you from getting started today?
No.
If it all makes sense.
That's it. Just the money.
Okay, it's just the money.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we could find a way to be able to help you get started on, like, to be honest, a shoestring budget, and you could get up and running, there'd be nothing else stopping you?
Yeah, but I just don't have the money, so I don't know how that's possible.
Okay. So, but you want to do it, right?
Yeah.
You want to do it. Okay, cool. All right, so basically, did you want me to go over price? Like, is this something you want to do?
I'm not sure what you mean.
So are you in? Like, price aside, investment aside?
Yeah.
Scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, I'm in.
You're in?
I'm in, but I don't know how to get the money, so...
Yeah, well, we've got to go over that. We'll go over that now. So,
okay.
So we've got 2 prices in the program. We've got the everyday price, okay, and we've got today's price. All right. So, and we always sometimes I say we've got the think about it price. So with the everyday price is 9,800, and today's price is 7,900.
Still doesn't really make a difference, so I don't have that access to that.
Yeah,
but that's cool though. It's good that you give me a discount.
Yeah, we'll give you a discount. Sometimes it works better than that. You need to do 45 minutes on a strategy session, but usually, like, how do you get over the price objections? Is it's really got to be a driver for them, and then you just want to isolate through a conversation. You just want to isolate and make sure that we only ever speak to people that have got cash, and then at the end of the day, someone's going to do something if they get resourceful enough. Yeah. So how do you get rid of the price objections? It's like metaphors and sharing real stories. Like, I flew into Bali with $10, so I can share that story as a metaphor. I think when I met you out in San Diego, I think I'd had another business go under, and I flew out there with like $80. Yeah, and I've had some like real high highs, and made a lot of, and then also had some really low lows. But you just got to keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
I think you'll learn the most at the bottom.
Absolutely, and it makes the peaks that much more rewarding.
Isn't it the contrast? What do you call it? I don't know. Your lowest lows. To experience the highest of highs, you have to have the lowest of lows, because it's all relative.
The duality in it.
Duality, and it's just like so relative. You know, someone it's like the poor man's always going to enjoy that steak more than you do.
Absolutely. 100%.
That's one thing the rich man will never get.
Yeah.
Is the satisfaction or the enjoyment that a poor man gets from eating a great steak.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that, man.
Because of the contrast.
Yeah, like growing up as a kid, like, we never went to a steakhouse.
Yeah.
Like, never.
Yeah.
And then when I'm an adult, went to a steakhouse, and I'm like, this is fucking great.
Yeah.
Like,
because of the contrast.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to like gratitude. Is like, because it's easy to get elated in things, and eventually, as they say, like with happiness, they did like the studies, like once you earn $75,000 a year, any more than that,
that's right,
your happiness only increases by like 5%. So that's why we've got to practice gratitude every day and like actually be grateful for things.
Well, unless you're earning like 75 million a year.
Mate, you're earning 75 million. But I wonder if that happiness rate, that actually, you'd definitely have a good time for 75 mil. It'd last a while.
There's a quote by 50 Cent I love. He said, if the money hasn't changed you, you haven't made enough.
Pretty much. That's it. I think all the other stuff is like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. So going back to your core 4, so you said sit with yourself. What's the other 3 things? So
the frameworks that are built out like from my own experiences, or getting myself back on top to kind of where I'm at now. And that's relationship with myself. Like, number 1, every man needs to sit with himself every morning. Like, that's just that's
every person in general, right?
Women
like,
too. In general. Sorry, no. But as I said, through the men's work and towards men out there, like, to be honest, like the most powerful thing you can do is sit with yourself. And if you don't say you have time, get up half an hour earlier. Yeah. And it's a time where you sit with yourself and you build a relationship with yourself. Yeah. Because when it all, as I said, there's a quote. The warrior in the garden is. I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. This is like
100%.
Man. Yeah. And how do you be a gardener how do you be a warrior in a garden? You sit with yourself. Because you don't want to be that gardener in the war, and that's where I was in Brazil. I had no resources, man, and I was like, I was nowhere. So I didn't have that pillar. Like I didn't have that's built in.
So I ask questions for people that are listening, right? So how does sitting with yourself help you know yourself? Because you're just sitting there in silence.
Yeah. So you'll have, and it probably helped me sitting in a Vipassana for 10 days. But you're not in silence because your mind is wanting to, your mind's wanting to think about what you're having for breakfast. Your mind wants to think about what you got to do for that day, what's in your calendar, what's in your schedule. Maybe you've just broken up with a partner and your mind's like running all over the place, thinking like, I need to get, like, it's learning to go back to what we were covering over before is the training the elephant. It's like training yourself. So when a war happens in the mind, you're able to sit through it. Like you get up in the middle of the day, in the morning, and you sit with yourself. You're building that relationship with you and your mind. So you're emotionally stable, you're mentally stable, and you're so focused and in tune with who you are because you're not. Every day we wake up, Joe Dispenza, you're familiar with Joe Dispenza's work. He says every day you wake up, you're repeating 95% of the behaviors from the day before.
Right.
So how you break that, he's got a book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. How do you break the habit of being yourself? You sit with yourself and don't get up and have that same cup of coffee, go to the same spot, drive the same way to work, do the same thing because it's just constantly anchoring you to be the same person. So if the first thing you do is sit with yourself, you're not falling straight into those patterns. And you're training yourself, and then it doesn't matter. You don't need any more than that. You just sit there. But the mind will go, and then it will go, and it will come back. And it will go, and it will come back. And eventually, it'll go, and then you can just drop in. And when you can drop in, you just nowhere, no place, no time, no thing, no name. And then that's when the neural circuitry in the brain can start to rewire itself because it's not going on the same patterns. So interesting. Yeah,
and there's a quote from Tony Robbins. He said, if you don't have 10 minutes a day for yourself, you don't have a life.
Yeah.
That's such a deep quote, man. It's like, that's true.
It's true, man. Everyone's so zooped up on coffee these days. And first, I've just got off coffee after this mold poisoning. And there's so much clarity coming from it without the coffee. But we wake up in the morning, nothing against coffee, but we're like straight into the coffee. It anchors us to feeling that we need coffee. And people anchor that energy is coffee when it's not. It's just a quick stimulus.
Yep.
But we anchor that. I need my coffee. Rush to work, and it's like go. And when do you ever get time to build a relationship with yourself? So that's the core. Number one is faith. I call it. Is basically self-belief, sitting there. Core two is fitness, which is self-explanatory as a man and as a woman as well. Fitness is everything. Like you can't. They say they put the mask on you before you put the mask on others in the plane. You've got to be in the best physical shape you can possibly be. We only get one body, and you're a representation of that, like what the body's capable of, and you just anchor it in. So then that's who you are. Because in business and in life and in sales and in everything, like unfortunately you're judged on the way you look, but it's not in a good or bad way. But if you're someone that looks after yourself, then people will look at you as if you have more self-respect. It's just the way it is.
Yep.
You look at someone and say they have more self-respect for themselves because they're taking care of themselves. Yeah.
And it's more attractive to the right people, right?
And it's more attractive to the right people.
Yeah.
And people like the traits. People are like that. If they're health conscious, each their own, and everyone's going through their own challenges. But if you can take care of yourself, people know you can take care of them.
Yeah.
It's very attractive for a woman, and it's very attractive for a business owner. If my employee is sick all the time, or if he's healthy, and naturally people are drawn towards good energy. Where does energy come from? Health. Health is energy.
Yeah.
So second one is the fitness, faith, fitness. Third of the core four is finances. Man, having a strategy to get your finances on track, because as a man, and this is only directed, his core four is built out for men, women as well, but in general, for the men and what I'm teaching is without resources, we don't have much to provide. There's a quote, no, I probably shouldn't say it, but men will find winners, turn them into losers, and then leave them for another winner. That's not saying all women are like that, but women are there to test us. Yeah, and that's where we go back to the dints in the armour. If you don't have your finances in check, a woman's going to find out.
She will.
She's going to poke and she's
Absolutely,
going to know.
100%.
And it's not saying you need to have finances to be in a good relationship, but it gives safety and it gives stability to a relationship. And if you're uncertain about yourself, and when you're making money and you're making good money, you get more confident, you've got more certainty, you've got more resources. As a man, you've got way more resources. And when you've got more resources, you can do more, you can create more impact, and you can also provide more. So the third of the core four is, and my going back to why women find winners, which they do. They're looking for a high value man.
Absolutely.
They're going to find a high value man, and they're going to do whatever it takes to turn that winner into, like, they're not going to turn him into a loser, but they're going to test him, because that's what women do. It's in their human nature, is to test him, to make sure he is the high value man that he says he is. Yeah. He's congruent.
Gavin was on the podcast. You know Gavin? Gavin Dantes. He was on the podcast, and he said, men chase championships and women chase champions. Yeah. I was like, that is the most accurate statement. But
that's pretty much
I mean, if I had, like, I don't know if I'd have a girl. I don't when I have kids, but if I have a girl, like, yeah, of course, I'm not telling her to get with a broke guy. No way. Like, you know?
And they will. Like, they'll naturally, that's just built in their genetic makeup. They're like tribal. They're going to go for the strongest man in the tribe.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's why you've got to be the strongest man in the tribe always.
This is why I was curious before I dove into the psychology of why women like MMA fighters and stuff. I was like, literally to what you just said, like, they're evolutionary speaking, they're the strongest guy in the tribe. If you're like a top fighter, like, you're like super attractive to women because you can take care of them.
Well, unfortunately, society's taken out that it's calling it toxic masculinity. Men need to know how to fight. Like, you fight, you're boxing, you're fighting. It's been around for thousands of years. Men are strength. Yeah, and unfortunately, men have been feminized, and we know what's going on. Like, they've been feminized, and now they call it toxic masculinity. But at the end of the day, a woman might say they don't want a man that fights, but they want a man that can protect himself and protect her.
Absolutely.
So that's a part of being fitness. That's part of the second core is fighting. Fitness is faith. Fighting and fitness, which is being able to protect yourself and protect others. And look after yourself, take care of business. And then third is finances, having your resources, being able to be resourceful, and that's having it in check. No, like, this is for all business owners, like, and I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and stuff and coaches, and we're all just pushed into this world of business. I'd love to know who knows their numbers. I didn't know my numbers. What was your numbers from last month? What was your numbers the month before? How much growth did you have in your business? It's like, if you don't know your numbers, that might be a dent in your armor. Because you can't track what you can't measure. So now my finances, like, I know every single dollar that goes into my accounts, out of my accounts, what's coming in for the month, what I'm projected for, so I can see growth. And I'm to a T on the day of the month. I'm doing my numbers where I didn't have that before. So that's the third one is the finances, resources. As a man, we need to have resources. And then fourth is flow state. And flow state in the core four is all about, like, what's my flow state like in life? Like, and flow state is like relational, and, like, call it universe or, whatever you want to call it. How am I flowing in reality? Like, synchronicities, are they showing up? Am I getting what I want? Am I able to move through and I don't get caught up in challenges? What's life presenting me? Because when you get to flow state, and flow state for me was when I sat down at my birthday here in Bali after a year of building back, and then I sat for my birthday, and we had Ross, we had Dave, Stora, a couple of other guys, James. There was a big group of us, Marco. I know you know Marco, and we had a big table of all these guys, and I looked around me and all these friends, and I'm like, holy shit! Like, what a reflection of people back at me, and that's flow state for me. It's like, what is my life representing to me?
In what way though? What do you mean? What is my life representing to me?
So what are the people that I'm hanging around with? The result. What's it reflecting back? What results am I getting reflected back at me?
Based on who they are. Exactly.
Well, look, man, you're a really cool dude. Like, we've met 4 years ago, and it's like, it's an honor to be here and just have a conversation. Like, man, it's a high level conversation. Well, I think it is anyway, and I think that that's just a mirror of kind of who you've become.
Right. Yeah.
And so sitting down at that table for my birthday after being, in Brazil where I'd be at dinner with everyone, I can't even add value because I can't speak the language. And I go home feeling so isolated and like devalued, sitting in an Uber and everyone's speaking Portuguese, having a good time. And I just didn't have any value to add. I just felt like, it just felt deflating, just so isolating.
Yeah.
So the flow state's all about like what's going on in my life like now. Like what's my relationship like with women? Am I playful? Am I having fun? What's my relationship like in business? It's more relationships.
So in the last 12 months, like, have you been diving into women or not? Like just solely focus on yourself?
So I went full monk mode.
Yeah.
I've taken the full monk mode path, which is hard to do here in Bali because there's a lot of beautiful women getting around. But
especially since they opened the borders.
Well, lucky we didn't have open borders for 8 months. So the first 8 months was pretty easy.
Yeah.
Now my neck's sore from driving past all the scooters. But it's been like full monk mode. Yeah, I've got a trip planned to Europe hopefully. So hopefully I'll meet some nice girls over in Europe. But I've just been in the zone.
Yeah. So So as you were saying the monk mode thing, my mind goes to boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Like with your friends, because you have a social network here in Bali. So how easy or how difficult was it to be like, hey, I can't go to dinner, can't go to that, nope.
Yeah. Yeah, it is hard like that because it is very social here. But another thing to cover over is I gave up drinking. Like, I haven't drank alcohol in the last year.
Wow.
2 drinks on my birthday, which is like nothing.
Yeah.
Not that I was a heavy drinker, but I just cut that completely. I had mold poisoning. I was living in an apartment in Uluwatu for 2 months. And while I was there was black mold in the house and I didn't know. So I've been like working through this mold poisoning, doing all these different treatments and ozone therapy and many different things to get on top of this mold. And like just the fatigue's been like full on and that inflammation in my body. But that's really helped me stay away from the scene and the partying because I didn't generally want to go out. But to be honest, just knowing, I think when you get to the bottom, you want to rebuild and not miss anything building back that structure. So it's just like, rather than being a people pleaser and just to go for the sake of going, I don't need to go in. I've traveled like 50 countries. I've just spent a year in Brazil. I think this is a DeMartini quote, your biggest voids become your highest values. And when I was in Brazil, my biggest voids were like what you perceive to be most missing is in Brazil, I didn't have a business, I didn't have the resources, I didn't have the gym close to me. All my highest values now was my biggest voids back there. So I couldn't provide for the girlfriend, couldn't take care of business. So it become a big void for me. Like when you perceive something to be most missing, well, in the future, we're going to value it a lot more. That's why people that grow up poor, not all people, but some people grow up poor and it's a real big driver for them to make money.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that too. Like for me growing up, my driver was to just have a full tank of petrol. Yeah. Because my dad never had, very rarely.
Where did you grow up?
In London.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so when I got a car, because he would always drive in the left-hand lane, the slow lane, and then cars would just be taken over, and I'd be like, fuck's sake.
Why is he driving in the slow lane? Because he didn't have much petrol.
Conserve the petrol, trying to save
no
money.
Accelerator down the hills.
And then it's when I passed my driving test, I was like, fuck it, I'm filling up the tank, and I'm going pedal to the floor. Like, I went in the fast lane, and I was just like, didn't give a fuck about the petrol, and that was like little things like that, gave me a lot of satisfaction. Little wins.
There was one day when I got here that I pinched 50K out of the fruit bowl at the house I was staying at because I literally didn't have, I didn't even have $5 to put petrol in the scooter. And Sesse is like 15 minutes out of town, man.
Yeah.
So and it's raining, it was in rainy season, and I literally had to just borrow a 50K that was sitting in the fruit bowl and just to put fuel in my bike.
Damn. Fuck.
In a scooter, man.
Jeez.
Yeah, I was running on zeros.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot in the zeros.
But this is another thing that is important, aside from money, is the social aspect of life, like the connections you had that helped you put you up in a place when you got to Bali. Like you already built that network.
Massively.
Yeah.
Yeah, just meeting people over the years. It's like people willing to help you out. And not that I asked anyone for money or anything like that, but like people just generally just, yeah, we've got a room for you. When you get back on top, just fix us up.
Yeah.
Get back to Bali, man. There's heaps of crew here. Rory was really good and helpful for me when he was when I was in Brazil talking to him. And yeah, getting into Bali is just like a hub of just awesome people. Like it's so dense.
Yeah.
Of just genuine, really good, like entrepreneurial, open-minded people.
Yeah. But you had to be honest with your situation in order to receive that help, right?
Yeah.
To receive that, the love that they gave you. Like, hey, you can stay at my place.
Yeah.
If you were trying to still hide, you wouldn't have got anything.
Yeah. The biggest thing for me and what I teach in my coaching and stuff now is like full honesty. It's like full transparency. When I spoke to my coach in Brazil, it was like, dude, this is where I'm at. Yeah. These are my numbers.
Yeah.
This is where I'm at emotionally. Like, this is what's going on. And it's like being so honest with where you're at. You got no one to impress.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like it's so you against you.
Yeah.
And now I was working. Another mentor said to me when I was in Brazil, like, this is the lowest of the low. Like, I was struggling to get through the days, and I did it though. And there was something I wrote on the mirror. It was like when I show. This mentor said it, and it really, like, I don't know, it did something to my brain. It's like, when I show up for myself, then everyone and everything will show up for me. When I show up for myself, and it's like, dude, you got to look after yourself. Everything will come to you. Everything's going to come to you in life. You got to look after yourself. Like, when you show up for yourself, everyone and everything will show up for you. It starts with us. Train. That's the core four. It's like training mentally, physically, emotionally.
But also, like what you say, that telling the truth.
Telling the truth.
Honest.
Being honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not easy. Like, it's the first time I've ever shared this story.
Yeah.
But it's not easy, but it's easy because it's true.
Yeah, right.
How do you can never get caught out if you just tell the truth.
It's true.
This is why lying so hard. Like, you don't know what you've told everybody. Telling all these little fibs. It's like, what's true in the end? It's like, I think they do say it. It's like, telling the truth is the easiest thing because it's the truth.
And that's something that I've had to struggle with, like with everything, like business, relationships, and just telling the truth is just. Sometimes they might not want to hear it, but it's the truth. And they actually, you get more respect for telling the truth, even if it's bad, even if the thing that you're telling the truth about is bad. Yeah. They respect you for telling the truth. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy because in this world, like, I feel like a lot of people are just lying. Like, for me, like, this is the work I've been doing in this past week. It's like, we had lunch the other day with our friends, and they were like, what's your default? Lie or tell the truth? Like, what's your knee-jerk reaction? I was like, oh, my default is to lie. Yeah. And I was like, where does that come from? Like, all this coaching shit, where does it come from? Yeah. And I was like, when I was younger, it came from my mum. Like, she'd be like, don't tell your dad. Like, she would spend money on some stuff. She'd be like, don't tell your dad. Yeah. And then I was like, oh fuck, I was literally trained to lie and make it like that was like socially acceptable. Yeah. Not to blame my mum, but that's just like what she was doing at the time, Yeah, yeah. And it's not her fault. She's learned that from her mum probably. Yeah. But it's like, oh, it comes from somewhere. And it's like, okay, at what point do you stop blaming your parents, right? It's like, I don't want to blame them. I'm just like, all right, I got this. Now I got to work with it. And, it's default to be telling the truth all the time.
Have you told a lie today?
No, absolutely not.
How are you doing?
How am I doing? Well, because this is another interesting question. So how are you doing? Everyone says, oh, I'm good.
This is what I was going to say.
So right now, I'm feeling really inspired. By this conversation. That's how I'm feeling. Yep. But how I'm doing in my life right now, like today, I'm optimistic about the next few days because I'm leaving to Thailand in a few days.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Are you going moving up the mountains or something, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going to go Thailand for a bit. For like 3 weeks, just change the energy.
Yeah, nice.
But how I'm doing, I'm excited about going to Thailand. Yeah. And
we've been here in Bali for how long now?
2 years, 2.5 years.
So you haven't left?
Yeah, since March 2020.
Oh, you haven't left?
Haven't left.
Oh, man, you got to go and explore. Yeah. I've been to Brazil for a year.
Yeah.
I've been in the whole journey.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I think when you go back to that, it's like people got to tell the truth, but we've been conditioned to I think I just shared this, like, as I said, with men, as like, how are you really? And I joined another powerful thing was a men's circle that I joined here in Bali when I got back, and it was only a community. There was only 5 of us. Ross organised it, and we sat in this men's circle. I didn't even know what a men's circle was, and let alone tell people about how I'm feeling. But we just check in with each other. Just check in. How you doing? Physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially. And you just, all cards on the table. This is how I'm doing. Do you have a good week, a bad week? Because we're so caught up in this entrepreneurial world that everyone's like hustle, hustle, grind, grind. How you really doing? How's your business? What aren't you doing that you need to do? What's one thing you can do this week that would, move the needle forward? And it's just the power of these men's circles, and this is what's inspired me to build this vision I have for, it's called the 300, and it's basically a community of men online, like virtual men's circles, but also like for more ambitious men. And it's a check-in. Like, surround yourself with guys that are moving the needle forward. And for me, I wasn't at the time, I was struggling, but to go into an environment where people are checking in, it's like, how are you? It's just being honest. Dude, this mold that I'm going through, this mold poisoning is really taking it out of me. I'm waking up in the morning, my eyes are swollen, my body's so inflamed, I'm fatigued, but I've got to keep showing up to these sales calls. I'm pretty burnt out, to be honest. Okay, what can you do to, what can we do to help you? It's like, fuck, I'm not in this alone. Like, the other dudes in the circle are going through some tough times as well. Or, I've done my purpose, I don't know what it is. That's cool, man, just focus on, this, or this is what I'd do, and just sharing, like, what's worked for you. And then the story of sharing Brazil and Ross sharing his story and other people sharing their stories. It's like, oh man, if he can do it, then I can do it. So I think we need more of that. Like, we need a lot more of that in this world, is men getting together and just helping one another out. Yeah.
I think the main theme, like, is, as you're saying this, I'm thinking of David Goggins, because, like,
man, he's a weapon, isn't he?
Yeah, like, I've been curious, because I'm so curious about why people, like, why he blew up. Like, all he's doing is telling his story, right? But he's like you, exactly. Like, he's been through some shit, he's overcome it, and he's just sharing a story.
Yeah,
that's literally what you're doing right now. And right. And it's so powerful because everyone can relate, because they've been through struggles, or they're going through a struggle. Yeah.
I think this would be a turning point in the projects that I work on, and the coaching and the retreats that I'm going to run, and these sorts of things, because I can genuinely share from a place of the experience, not just because I did seminars for like 5 years, man. That's what I mean. Tony Robbins. I did all these seminars, and I was just taking in lots and lots of stuff. And people don't need stuff anymore. They don't need more stuff. You can get free content on YouTube. You can get more. You don't need another podcast.
As they're listening to this podcast.
No, this podcast, except this one is gold. There's so many nuggets in here. But after this one, you don't need any more. No, but what I mean is, like, there's just a lot of stuff with these seminars and tools, and I think is bringing it all together through someone you resonate with, someone that's done it and has actual experience in doing it, and someone's got some frameworks that work. You don't need any more than that. Framework, the system to follow, some mentoring and coaching to hold your hand along the way, and getting rid of all the stuff.
Yeah. One could argue, though, isn't that why we go to seminars?
Why is that?
Because of that very thing, with, like, they've gone through some shit, they've overcome it.
Yeah,
they have their frameworks.
But, I know. But the problem is, it's like you drink the Kool-Aid, and we get caught up in the rah-rah. Yeah. Of the seminars and stuff like that, because I did it. It's very easy just to go to seminars and think you're on top of everything.
Seminar junkie, right?
I was a seminar junkie for like 5 years, and I spent like $100,000 on seminars.
Damn.
I did all the Tony Robbins stuff, went to Fiji, got told about Bitcoin at like $700, didn't invest. But yeah, man, it's like there's a lot out there, and I think sometimes we just need to just refine it all.
That's interesting what you said there about Bitcoin, $700. You didn't invest, because I just got before this. I just got off a client call, right? Yeah. And he's dwelling on a financial decision that he didn't make 15 years ago, that he's feeling the effects of now, like negatively. Like, he could have had more money, he could have been doing this with his family and stuff like that. And I was just coaching him on, like, dwelling on the past and like to your point, what you just said, $700 Bitcoin, you didn't invest.
Yep.
Like how much time, energy, or did you spend dwelling on that? Oh fuck, I didn't invest in that.
It's come up in a few conversations here and there, but not energetically, not a lot.
Yeah.
It's just a bit bummed out.
Yeah.
I tried. I was trying to put at the time. I had a lot of cash. I'd sold a couple of properties. I was going to put like 50K on it and buy 50 Bitcoins. And this was back before like Binance and all these sites. Yeah. And you had to send your passport. Like you had to scan your passport, send it to Hong Kong to this specific bank that had Bitcoin. This is 2017, early 2017. And I just didn't do it. Like it was just too hard. And then I bought some at $3,000. I did buy some at $3,000, but I sold it for like $6,000 and thought I did well. Yeah. So.
Yeah. But you didn't dwell on it like that much.
No, well, you just got to keep going, don't you? Yeah. I'm not someone to hold on to emotionally. Like the relationship was definitely something. And I think this is all built from your values. This goes back to what you value the most, what you're attached to the most. If you're attached to money and you lose it, like I lost 150 grand in a development one time, 150 cash to a builder. Or to a developer, and he liquidated the company and he took $2 million from investors. Whoa. I lost 150 grand overnight.
Jeez.
Gone. And tried to find him, but couldn't find him. So I lost that money, but I went and did the DeMartini work, which is like looking for the benefits in this. And then that's when I come out of that event, and that's when I met the girlfriend. That's when I went to Brazil. But at the end of the day, like it's all leading you somewhere. And if I couldn't share that, now from this side of it, it's like now I'm able to share that story with other people and relate to them, because a lot of people have been scammed. A lot of people lost money. In my sales, it helps because a lot of people are scammed in scams, and they get on the call and they're like, "Oh, I've been scammed before," and so I totally understand where you're at. Like, I've also felt that way. I've lost 150 grand overnight. I know the feeling of loss of that amount of money. But at the end of the day, you've got to reframe it as like, well, I'd rather at 150 grand now than 10 million later on with the same lesson.
Yeah.
Could have been 2 million. I could have had the house on it with the kids and the family and then lost 150K. So as hard as it is, that's a lot of money, 150 grand. But as hard as that is, the reframe was always, I'd rather it now than 10 million. And I know I've got the skills to get it back. I know I've got the skills to make it back. I've made it once. I can definitely make it again. But
yeah, where does that confidence come from? Because that's actually a big point. Like you made it once, you can make it again. Like you've been to rock bottom, you can climb up the mountain again. Yeah,
I think that's self belief, isn't it? If you've done something, you've done it, so you can do it again. Like I think that's with anything. I don't think you can have self doubt if you've done something before. If you've ridden a bike before you got on the bike, you're unsure. But I think once you ride a bike, now you know you can ride a bike.
What about motorbike?
Man, first time I ever rode a motorbike, I dropped the clutch out and just rode it straight through a fence at my brother's mate's house. There's always that most daunting time is when you get on a motorbike for the very first time and it's got a clutch and you don't know what the hell you're doing.
Yep.
We see it in Bali here a lot. You see them on the scooters, but yeah, I think everyone crashes on their first time.
Yeah. So what about mistakes? Like what's your biggest mistake you've made in your life, you think?
Man, that's a big question. Biggest mistake. That's a tough one. Biggest mistake I've ever made. Oh, I don't think, man. I can't be here like sharing everything I've shared from the knowledge that I've acquired and say that anything's a mistake at the end of the day. Because if we look at like it's not the way it's supposed to be, then it was never supposed to be that way. I could say, to be honest, like I thought I was going to marry the girl in Brazil and I was moving towards the next chapter in my life to get married and stuff. So I could say biggest mistake I did was didn't fix that relationship. But then I could say the biggest mistake I did was to even go there in the first place because I didn't have everything in check. And then you go back, it's like, where does it stop? You know what I mean? Like it's the biggest mistake. I think there's another one. It's like, it's the rejections are just a redirection. So I don't think there is any mistakes, is there? I don't think there can be.
That's a refreshing way to look at it.
I think we live in a video game and we're just making it up, just getting to the next level.
What's the biggest success in your life?
Business success, I think, to be honest, is buying a house at 19. I think that's 21 I was. Buying my first property at 21.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, and then I renovated over 4 years, and then I sold it for like 4 times the price.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was my biggest achievement, I reckon, was buying this house. And same thing, monk mode. I was renovating, building decks, because I used to be a builder for 15 years.
All right.
Yeah, I was a carpenter for 15 years, and in Australia, back in Melbourne, and just having this project. I think it's so important for a man to have something he's working on, and having this house, renovating it, knocking out the windows, building the deck. My friends would come around, they'd drink beers and watch me, but I wouldn't drink. I'm just building. They'd come around and have a beer and be social, but I was like in monk mode, renovating this house because I wanted to travel. I wanted to go traveling and have a house when I got back. I wanted to have an income coming in. So that was the goal. So I think that was definitely the biggest success, or biggest vision, biggest achievement, yeah.
That was so young, like, wow.
21.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. I was like wearing a hoodie and I bought it at auction. And so I'm at the auction bidding as like a little kid. I don't know how I got it. Yeah, and then we all moved in, and my mates moved in, and I rented all the rooms out like an entrepreneur, and I had free rent from the day I moved in because I rented out 2 rooms to my mates, and they were paying like $150 a week at the time, and yeah, basically was living there for free.
So were you doing real estate in a big way back then?
Bought 4 properties. Yeah, so I bought a few properties. I made some money on a couple, and I lost some money on a couple. Yeah, there was definitely a passion of mine, and then for some reason, I just sold everything. I thought the market was going to crash, and I sold everything and got out.
You got any plans to go back into real estate?
I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I'm definitely thinking about it. I'm thinking about buying some land here in Bali, potentially, doing some villas. I do want to get my hands dirty. I want to get my hands into something. Yeah, I think it's important.
Are you going to actually build it yourself?
No, right, not here, mate. I'll stick to coaching and sales, mate.
Yeah.
And pay the Balinese. I'll just employ the Balinese.
Yeah.
They're much better. I might go back to Australia and buy some property back there, but I think it's going to be a bit of a dip. I think things are going to take a bit of a dip in the next few months. So maybe get onto something.
Yeah. What do you think about spirituality in the sense of like being woo-woo? Do you think it's like woo-woo, or do you think it's...
Me and Ross were talking about this. When you're in Bali, you need some healing from the healing. Ross will love that. You get sick of like the conversations. You hear about them, they're like, I'm just having a bit of a download, and so, man, I need some healing from being around all these healers. It's like, I need to go back into the 3D. I need to go back into the Western world.
Yeah, that's a good joke for the stand-up comedy.
Yeah, take that one. I need some healing from the healing.
Oh yeah, but what do you what's your thoughts on it? Like, what's helped you the most with the spirituality world?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. Man, I've tried all different modalities, like from ayahuasca ceremonies in Australia to Kambo. I'm not sure if the guys know what Kambo is. It's putting frog's poison on your arm and cleansing or purging your energy aura. Some other plant medicines and stuff like that. And mushrooms, spirituality. Like, I know they're not I think, to be honest, there's meditation, and I think the meditation's been the most grounding. Because at the end of the day, wherever you go, you go. So if I go to Portugal next month, or I go back to Brazil and see all my friends, and the business goes to shit, and everything falls apart again, if you've got your anchors, nothing doesn't really matter. Because wherever you go, you go. Like, last time I went, I didn't feel like I took that with me. So I think meditation, to be honest, is just letting go. There's a book, I forget what the guy's name is.
David Hawkins?
No. Oh, yeah. I've read that book, Letting Go. Yeah. And there's another one, what is it called? He wrote 2.
Power versus Force?
No, not David Hawkins. It's another one. But it's all, this guy's created his own method. It's just like in the meditation is just... Yeah, letting go. Like when you close your eyes, you just like pretend a waterfall's going over you, and the thoughts will come, and just let them go. Like a negative event from your life might come up, let it go, and just constantly doing that in the meditation. And it's just like learning to just release, let go. Like, how you want to grab onto something that should be a certain way, just let it go. Let it go. And practicing that has been really, really powerful. Wow.
So meditation, folks.
Meditation.
I love meditation.
Yeah, I think it's underrated.
Yeah. I did 1 year of...
but it's for a purpose. It's for a reason. Like not to do it to tick the boxes.
Right.
So many people are caught up in the personal development space, and I've got a friend, and they're just trying to tick the boxes. Got to get up, do my breath work. Got to do my 5 minutes of reading, my 5 minutes of meditation. It's like, it's so wrong. It's like you're just making you're just making yourself more unfulfilled because you're feeling you have to do it to do it.
I should do it.
Yeah, or it's a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Where the reason why I'm teaching it the way I do in this core 4 is there's a purpose behind it, and that's so if everything turns to shit, you come back to yourself. So you never had anything anyway.
Yeah.
There was never any. You're starting from scratch. But not just to do the meditation, to just quiet my mind. Like, if you've got to quiet your mind, like, I don't know, maybe your life's too busy or something.
But it does that, though. That's the effect of it as well, right? Silencing the mind.
Silencing mind. It's like training the elephant. Training, building a relationship with yourself. And it's not sitting there going, got to meditate, don't think about things. It's like, observe the thoughts go past. Shit, there's those thoughts again. Okay, and then you'll notice, like, get up in the morning, you might have had a late night the night before, you might have had a bit of alcohol, maybe you drank a coffee late, and then you get up in the morning, you meditate. You have that. You're sitting there, and your mind's like all over the place.
Yeah.
And so you can reflect on, my meditation was really shitty this morning because of the night before. I was up late, I was out, my ears are ringing, loud music. So it's like self-awareness.
Whenever I feel like triggered, I just like. Sometimes I even do like meditation if I'm getting triggered, but I'll just do like a few deep breaths. Yeah. Just to calm myself down, like get flustered, so take six deep breaths. But yeah, the meditation, like sitting with myself. I haven't worked up to an hour yet, but I've worked up to 40 minutes, like in one sit.
Yep.
Which for me is a huge deal. But it's
a long time. 40 minutes is a long time. Yeah. They reckon it only kicks in like a proper meditation. Yeah, about 20-minute mark is when your theta, your brain waves actually start to change. Yeah.
It's nice. And I do it in the sun, so it's like getting the benefits of the sun as well.
Yeah.
So it's like a nice little habit,
Habit stacking. Just get that sun as well.
Yeah, habit stacking. Yeah,
you follow Carnival Aurelius on Instagram?
Yes. That's one of the best Instagram
accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good, isn't he?
I don't know who does that, but like whoever that is good.
Miscellaneous Carnival Aurelius. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So do you have any closing remarks, closing comments you want to share with people?
Man, it's been
anything we didn't cover.
A good conversation. I haven't really. First podcast I've really properly been on. I've been on a few, but they've been via video link.
I see.
Yeah, this is cool.
Yeah.
Leaving notes for anybody. Maybe in general, like it's a pretty tough time at the minute. Like it is. It's some challenging time. Like there's a lot of uncertainty around what's going on in the world. There's a lot of uncertainty within everything. And I think people are being forced to take a look at themselves. Like to take a look at as I said, like it's like sweep your own doorstep before you go, projecting on everyone else about theirs. So I think on like leaving notes or anything that I can share is like really looking at ourselves, like how, like, and I think go back to that quote, like how I show up for myself. When I show up for myself, everyone and everything will show up for me. And it's like, yeah, we're really showing up for ourselves, which comes down to complete honesty. It's like complete truth. Am I where I want to be physically? Am I carrying an extra 10 kilos? Okay, I am. Well, who can I be truthful to and talk to and let them know that I've got a goal and I want to get to being accountable to someone and like kind of getting on top, like sweeping our own doorstep. I think to leave on that is like, yeah, I think taking a good look at like, and not in a bad way, it's just like kind of how can I be better? With everything that's going on outside right now, it's like, well, let's just focus on me. Like, what can I do to be better? Because yeah, if we can be better, then it's going to be better for everybody at the end of the day. Yeah, in Brazil, I wasn't good for anybody. Not that I was like bad for anybody, but I wasn't able to provide resources. I wasn't in alignment. Like I wasn't able to, so that wasn't serving anybody. So I probably should have made the move. I probably should have tried and left the girl and flown back to Australia earlier and looked after myself, but I stuck it out and obviously, things went the way they did and now I'm here. So, but everything happens for a reason because that's been the driver that has fueled this last year of getting back on top.
That's a powerful story you got there, man. And thank you for sharing that.
Pretty crazy.
It's like, yeah.
It's interesting to share it now from like where I am.
Yeah.
Because if we had this conversation 6 months ago, it probably there wouldn't have been as much, I don't know, you could say lessons in there.
One of the biggest takeaways I got from this is just really just focus on yourself, isolate yourself, and not in a bad way, but just focusing on building the relationship with yourself, and then everything comes from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Isolation comes transformation.
Say again?
Through isolation comes transformation.
I like that.
Not in a bad way, but just starting to say no. One thing I did last night I watched a bit of Ricky Gervais. What was it? Afterlife. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen that.
Man, I haven't watched much comedy, and I watched it last night. I was like, man, I've been missing out on just sitting and having a good laugh. It was because I've been in monk mode, hustling and working. Not in a bad way, but it was good to sit down and watch some comedy and actually I was having a good time. It was pretty funny.
So you haven't had Netflix 12 months?
Nah. So that's when we go to blackout mode. Like, man, no Facebook on my phone, no Netflix. No, I don't even have Netflix. I'm using my friend's account because he came over the other week and I just logged in. Yeah, no Netflix.
That's great, amazing. I'm actually curious to try it. But I'm like, fuck, how can I do that now? I've got the podcast.
Yeah. No, it's been a good conversation, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, appreciate it. And yeah, it's been great, man. Like, we've been going for like an hour and a half now. So,
man, it goes quick. I hope everyone got some value.
Yeah, no, you dropped a lot of wisdom and nuggets, and I think people are going to like this one. So, yeah. Thanks, Adrian, for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Man, I got to make it on the Aaron Darko show. It's good.
Actually, I have one last question. I ask every guest, and I was thinking about changing it up. We'll change it up after episode 25. So, what is the meaning of life, like in your own words?
What is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of life? I think the meaning of life is to free yourself. Yeah, I think your meaning of life is to free yourself. Yeah, free yourself from your internal constraints, free yourself from the war with being in yourself, like freeing yourself from all attachments and limiting beliefs. I think it's and you free yourself from the limits by moving through the challenges. So like wisdom, when I say wisdom is when you don't see it as bad or good, you just see it as it is. So I think that's the meaning of life, is to just get the lessons you need this round. Who knows, we might be coming back for a second journey. This might be our 100th journey, I don't know. So, and then the meaning of life is to have a good time. Yeah, is to enjoy it and live in joy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love that. So, Adrian, thanks for sharing. Where can we find out more about you? Where can guests go?
Probably on Instagram's the best one, so Adrian_Nicholls, or Facebook, just Adrian Nicholls.
But you don't use Facebook. Are you in monk mode still?
I use Messenger.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I've got another. I use this thing on Facebook where you can get rid of the feed.
Yes.
Have you got that?
Yeah.
So I don't see the feed, but I can go in and look at the things.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good app.
Good tool.
Extension. Whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Thanks, Adrian.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate.